Yo, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to be sharing my review for Yakuza 0 on the PS4. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's been a cold winter and it's lasted far too long.
Yo, what's going on? I'm Jay Cartere from growonyoutube.com, teaching you how to be better. And let's start with my experience with the Yakuza series. I had no experience prior to playing this game. This is my first game in the Yakuza series, but I have known about the Yakuza series for some time. I had always seen, pictures of it, maybe pictures of the cover on PSN or somewhere on YouTube or something, and I never really understood what it was. And I watched a few reviews for some of the games, and I watched a few videos saying, oh, you should play Yakuza, blah blah blah, them types of videos, why you should play Yakuza, why Yakuza is going to be your next favorite. And it seemed like an interesting series. It seemed interesting. It seemed like it was just mainly a beat 'em up game, but there are a bunch of side activities that you can do, and it seemed like it was going to be a very interesting crime story, as well as having these outlandish stories that you see in these side missions. So I decided to start with Yakuza 0, as this seems to be the start of the story. Although it wasn't the first Yakuza game in the series, the way the story set up, this basically is the start of it. So it makes more sense for me to go from Yakuza 0, then through the remakes, which are currently on PS4. I think there's the Yakuza 1 remake and the Yakuza 2 remake. I don't think they got 3 just yet, but I'm not going to be playing Yakuza 1 in the next couple weeks. So, I'll get onto that eventually, and I think those games are going to take quite long as well, because this game was not a short game whatsoever. I believe when I completed the game, it said I had played it for 69 hours, and that is a long time. And the amount of percentage complete for the game was around 23%. So that gives you some idea of how much stuff there is to get involved in this game. But I want to get into kind of want to get into the story first. Usually I go with gameplay first for my reviews, but story seems to be a very big thing. I think it'll make more sense if we're going with story and include some gameplay in the story. When we talk about gameplay, I'm going to talk mainly about the combat and that sort of stuff, and some other aspects of the gameplay. But I think story is very important, because this is a really heavily story focused game. So story. Now, this game has one of the best stories I've played in years, and I was thinking that like last week when I was playing the game and some twists and turns were happening, I was like, oh my god, this game is amazing. Like, this story is great. It gripped me emotionally. It made me curious to know what is going to happen next. It was definitely one of the best stories that I've played in years, and I really want people to experience it. They're great twists and turns, and the callbacks are done very well. Obviously I can't give you any more details in it, but the way the story works is the story revolves around 2 main characters. We've got Kazuma Kiryu, I think that's his name, Kazuma Kiryu, and Goro Majima. And these guys are unadulterated badasses. Like, they're good guys though. Like, they're not really anti-heroes. Like, I guess Goro Majima would probably count as an anti-hero, but these guys are so good. Like, they are the good guys. They are doing good things for good reasons, because they want to protect people and be nice guys, basically. But like, when it comes down to it, like before a battle, there'll probably be a bunch of guys shit talking you, depending on what character you are, but it doesn't matter what character you are. They'll be shit talking you and saying how they're gonna beat you up or something, and your character will just let them know it ain't gonna go down that way. And when your character tells them, yo, like, it ain't gonna go down that way, I'm gonna batter you, you should probably just allow it, he means it. And when you're watching this, you're like, yes, you're damn right, I'm gonna beat up these guys. And then it transitions into the actual game and you batter them, because the guys that you are playing really are super powerful guys that step over basically anyone that tries to come and mess with them. But I'll talk a little bit more about the fighting in the gameplay section. But yeah, you see the story prelude happen, and you see that, yo, these guys mean business, and then it jumps into the gameplay and you give them the business. And I love that. I love the way they hype up the fights, and then you get in the fights and you're battering guys. Like, it is great. I really enjoy it. There are 3 types of cutscenes that we see in the game. There's the rendered cutscenes, which is like the glossy cutscenes, which I'll be showing in the background now. Then there's the in-game cutscenes, which is just less glossy. It's like using the in-game engine, and you see the subtitles on the bottom, you know, that sort of stuff. Just really straightforward stuff. And then there's these kind of comic book type cutscenes, which don't really happen that frequently. Like, they happen like once in a while. But yeah, there are 3 types of cutscenes. Generally, when you're doing a main mission, most of the cutscenes that you deal with and most of the people you talk to will be fully voiced. But when you're doing side missions, there's basically no voice dialogue. Basically, there's a lot of non-voice dialogue. Let me not say there's none, because there may be 1 or 2 missions where you get some voices, but the majority of the side missions, there's no voice dialogue, so there's a lot of reading. But the writing is so good that I chuckled many times while reading, and this has happened to me with other Japanese games and with anime. So it just seems like whatever's going on in Japan, I don't know how they create their content over there, but whatever they're doing, whatever the production process is, they're doing it well. Because I haven't played a Japanese game that I thought was going to be good that ended up being terrible. Like, they usually have great bases for like normal, you know, gameplay that you kind of expect, and then they've got a lot of minutia, like a lot of small details and a lot of small things that you can do within the game that you don't really get a lot in Western games. And I love it. I love it. I love the little things that you can do and that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of reading, especially if you don't understand Japanese. There's a lot of reading in the main scenes anyways, because it's all subtitles. There is no English dub, which is disappointing, but they did a pretty good job. They did a pretty good job, and I really enjoyed the story and enjoyed my experience, even though there was no English dub whatsoever. And reading the dialogue actually feels better with the voice acting, even though I don't understand Japanese at all. But there's also a feature where when you complete a chapter, or when you go into another chapter, it actually shows, no, it's not just each chapter. When you switch between characters, because you do that in this game, you play as both the characters, Goro Majima and Kazuma Kiryu. When you switch between the characters, there's basically a recap of what basically has recently happened with that character, so you kind of understand, you get back up to speed and you can get back into the action. I really like that. That was really appreciated. I wish that was basically in every game. And there's also the ability to watch any cutscene in the main menu. There's basically, I think it's called replay, and you can go through and you can rewatch any cutscene again. And that's pretty good, because then if you haven't played the game in a while, you can just go through and rewatch cutscenes to kind of bring yourself more up to speed. And that should be the standard in games, to be honest. But I really like the story. Basically, I'm kind of going to give you a basic preview of the story. Everyone, no, let me not say everyone, but the story starts out with Kazuma Kiryu, and he's a Yakuza, and he's sent to do a job, and then he's framed for murder, and then, you know, a lot of other stuff happens. Like, that's all I can basically tell you, because I don't want to spoil anything, and I want you to go in and experience this yourself. And I don't think there's any good reason why you wouldn't play this game, unless it just is it's the type of game that you really don't like. If you don't like beat 'em ups, you don't like games where you do a lot of fighting and that sort of stuff, then possibly this is not the game for you. But if you do, then this game is so cheap and the content is so dense that it'd be a hard argument to make against this game. Like, I haven't seen anyone saying, yo, don't play this game, but I would really be interested in the argument that someone makes to say, yeah, don't purchase this game, because it's just, there's just so much stuff to do and it's cheap. And I spent over 60 hours playing this game and I paid £16 for it, so I'm pleased. But let's get on to the gameplay. So the gameplay is mainly consists of fighting. Honestly, most of your time in the game is going to be spent watching cutscenes where the story will be explained, people's motivations will be explained, different politics and things like that. So if you don't like that type of thing, you don't like spending a lot of time watching cutscenes, then this game may not be for you. If you hated the old Metal Gear Solids when there was too many cutscenes and really long cutscenes and stuff, then you may not like this. Personally, I am a fan of that and I like that stuff. But when you're not in cutscenes, you'll generally be walking around the city, depending on which character you're playing. Kiryu will be in Kamurocho and Majima will be in Sultanbori. I think that's how you say it, but that's how I'm saying it anyways. So the way the game's set up is there are a bunch of side missions around the city, so you can go around and find a side mission, or you'll stumble across side missions, side stories. They're called sub stories in this game, and you basically can engage those sub stories if you want. There are 2 big mini games, one for each character. For Kiryu, there's a real estate mini game where you can make a bunch of money, which I honestly didn't invest the amount of time that I needed to invest into earlier on, which made the later game a bit harder for me. But Majima also has a mini game where you run a hostess bar, which is like, both of these mini games pretty fun and pretty involved, and it's got a backstory behind it, and you kind of want to complete that backstory because it pushes you to want to do that. And you do get a special unlock when you complete these mini games, although I didn't complete these mini games in my playthrough. I only found out about the special unlock after, which is disappointing, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, there's mini games, there's other things that you can experience in the city. You can go and play, you know, darts and bowling and Japanese games and poker and whatever. You can do a bunch of stuff. I think there's even a fighting tournament type thing, which I didn't get involved in at all. I might have to go back and play that. But there's a bunch of side missions. I think there's even a toy racer side mission or side activity thing that I didn't touch at all, where you can like upgrade your toy racer. Things like, you know, pocket cars, pocket racers or something. You can upgrade that, get different parts for it and all that sort of stuff. I didn't touch that whatsoever, but there's a bunch of stuff to do. There's a bunch of stuff to do, but generally you'll be walking around in the city and you'll be walking to where, you know, either an activity or a main mission. And on your way there will be random guys who will see you and they'll try and beat you up. So you have 2 choices. When this happens, you can engage in a fight, which you'll want to do earlier on because you make money by doing this. Like every time you beat someone up, you basically punch the money out of them. Like you punch them and there's money going everywhere. You grab that, you put it in your pockets and you earn money in it. So it makes sense to fight people. But then later on in the game, where you just want to go to the story missions, or you want to go to your mini game where you're going to make more money, you may not want to fight everyone, and at that point you can just throw money in the air. And when you throw this money in the air, the people who wanted to fight you before, they'll go run to go and pick up the money because they're greedy bastards. So that's how that works. You'll generally find a bunch of encounters when you're going towards your objectives, and you'll just fight a few guys on the way there. And then when you get to a main mission, you will probably do a bunch of fighting in that mission. There are different types of missions and different types of fights that you'll get into. You may get into a small fight where there's like 4 guys or 3 guys. Those are pretty easy. You may get into a very big fight where it's a multi-stage mission where you're fighting like 20 guys and then you beat them all up, and then you move through and you fight another 20 guys and you beat them all up, you move through, and then, you know, continuing until you fight a boss and then finish the mission or what have you. So they're very interesting missions as well. I really like the missions. I really liked the way it was set up. As I said, you know, before you fight someone, there's generally some sort of storyline behind it, and you'll generally let them know, yo, I'm gonna batter you. Like, is this really what you want? And then they'll obviously be like, yeah, come on, come get it. And then you'll come and get it and you'll beat that ass, which is very, very satisfying. And yeah, I really like that. But the gameplay, I did want to say a little bit about the actual fighting styles. Now, each character, Majima and Kiryu, they both have 3 fighting styles that you start with. Oh no, you don't start with them. You start with 1 and you get 3 very quickly. And you can also use weapons, which we'll talk about. But let's talk about the 3 fighting styles basically. So Kiryu's fighting styles are generally great against a small amount of enemies, but not very effective against large groups. There are 3 fighting styles. He's got his brawler fighting style, which is, you know, it's pretty good at fighting people. I don't know how to explain that a little bit more. Then he's got the rush fighting style, which makes him really, really fast, but not as powerful. And then he's got the beast fighting style, which automatically picks up things in the environment when you're around it, and you have really hard hitting moves, but you move really, really slow. Now the beast style is meant to tackle large groups, but Kiryu moves so slow in this style that you can find yourself being attacked by a group of dudes and stun locked before you can get your slow ass to a weapon. So you may be in a corner and then you can block using this style, and when you block, you take like a considerably lower amount of damage when you're using the beast style. And people can be punching you up, and then you'll be like, okay, let me move now. And then you try and move, and then you are just getting punched from 5 angles. You have no chance to punch or get out of it or counter or anything like that. But I must put a, I don't know what it's called, but I must come in here, interject, and give you some additional information. Now, the reason why I felt like this with these fighting styles is because I didn't level them up enough. And the way you level up in this game is when you get money, you can basically spend those money on your skills. So you can, there's basically like a skill web kind of thing, and you can upgrade your skills by spending the money. I'll have it on the screen right about now. It's pretty straightforward. So you can get like more powerful punches, more health, but you can also unlock combos and unlock counters and unlock heat moves. Heat moves are the basic special moves that you can execute using triangle, which basically uses your heat bar. Like, you've got a health bar and you've got your heat bar. Your heat bar does these moves that enable you to like do special moves and stuff, like beating someone's head into a wall or beating them up with your baseball bat. Like, there's many different things. I don't really want to go super deep into explaining heat, but you know, it's like you got your normal punch, do a takedown kind of move, and then you've got the heat moves, which do some flashy stuff, and you get a little not a cutscene, but you know, a little in-game animation, and you'll see that basically. I'll be showing heat moves in the background right about now. So you can upgrade all that sort of stuff. And because I didn't really spend that much money in, well, I spent a lot of money. I spent hundreds of millions of, I don't know if the, no, it's yen. Hundreds of millions of yen into my abilities. But you have to spend a lot. You have to spend a lot, and the way you do that is by basically completing the minigame, completing the real estate minigame. You can make a lot of money doing that, and it wasn't until further along in the game that I realized that I had hampered myself by not investing enough in the brawling style, which is basically the style that is good enough to fight large scales of enemies, because you know, the beast style is too slow, the rush style is too weak, and the brawling style just had me getting knocked on my ass a lot of the times until I actually upgraded it. And then in like the last 2 chapters of the game, I was battering people and getting through it smooth like butter. Although there was some difficult parts, there was some difficult boss battles and whatnot, and I did use a lot of items. You do have to use a lot of items in this game. You can buy like health items, food items that bring your health up and that sort of stuff, or bring your heat up as well. And I like the fact that I'm forced to use my items. It's not just super easy, like I never lose health. It's not like that. Like, you will be losing health, you will be eating all your items. I think you can hold like a bunch of items, but you've got a limit. And once you can stock up on items, go to a mission, and you generally won't run out of all your items if you're not super bad at the game. I played on normal, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, generally when I was playing with Kiryu, I'll just use a bunch of items and stay through and force my way through. But Majima, total different story. Now, earlier on with Kiryu, I was beating up guys and getting stuff done. But later on, because I didn't invest in my skills enough, it was a lot more difficult anytime I would fight a group of enemies. Like, I could fight 3 to 5 people easy, but when there was 10 people and a bunch of people coming around, it became difficult until I had invested more money into those abilities. But Majima is made for fighting. His fighting styles are amazing. He's got another 3 fighting styles, and what are they called? It's Breaker, Slugger, and there's another one. It's basically the brawler of Majima. The style is called Thug. So he's got Breaker, Thug, and Slugger. Now, Slugger is his style with his baseball bat, which is generally good against people with weapons because you can block their weapons. And he's got some great move that basically uses his baseball bat like a nunchuck, and you can hit a bunch of enemies doing that, and it's a great way to basically have a long running combo, which is something that Majima has over Kiryu, especially without upgrading your styles. Because I hardly upgraded Majima's fighting styles and skills and stuff. Like, I just barely upgraded his stuff. But he was a killing machine, or a beaten up machine, because I didn't murder anyone. But still, he was out here. No joke. Like, his breaker style, which is basically like breakdancing and stuff, was amazing for fighting up large groups because it's fast and fluid. So you can just be spinning on your head, kicking a bunch of guys and like hitting loads of guys to get on the ground and stuff like that, and continuing going because you're just getting these combos up and you're continuing to go on, and it's so fluid, and you're not slow like in the Beast style, which is just so slow and it didn't make any sense if you're trying to fight a group. So it was so easy to beat up a group. It's like the group didn't even exist when Majima comes around, because he just beats them up. Like, it's just so easy. And then the Slugger style is pretty good against weapons. As I said, it's good against one-on-one, but you can use it in a group. And then we have the Thug style, which is basically just Majima just fighting with his hands, which is pretty good as well. You can use that in a group, but it's better for like one-on-one. But I used it in a group later on to kind of make things a little bit more difficult for myself, because the breaker style was just so perfect for fighting people in a group. And yeah, playing with Majima was amazing. And when it comes to the end, like when everyone's like, yo, this guy, like, he's super strong, you believe it. You believe Majima is super strong by the end of this game, because you are walking through people like they don't matter, like you're a knife through butter. Like, he is just out here. And every time I played as Majima, it was really good fun. Also really like the way they kind of set up the fights and the enemies. Like, there's basically enemies with weapons generally have lower health. So if they got a sword or they got a knife or something, they got lower health. And if they got a gun, they got really low health, which makes sense. That, well, it doesn't make sense in terms of realism, but it makes sense in terms of gameplay, because like, if everyone had the same amount of health, it would get really annoying dealing with these people. When they shoot you, you fall on the ground. Like, when they shoot you, maybe you should die, and falling on the ground is fine and is a great alternative, but still, it's really annoying to get shot and have to fall on the ground and tap X. So, you know, these guys, generally, you want to get rid of people with guns first, and that's a good way to operate in this game, and they're easiest to take out because they got such small health bars, and I really like the way that was set up. Now you can also do a bunch of things in the main menu, like there's climax battles, which I don't really know what they are because I never really played them, but you can do challenges and fights and challenges and that sort of stuff in the main menu. So after you play the game, you can go and do that if you really want to, and like when you finish the game, you can play New Game Plus, so that's all great. But that's basically the gameplay. Otherwise, we'll be here forever talking about all the different side things that you can do. Apparently there's like fully fledged arcade games in here, but I never really got around to that. I didn't really go into the arcades or anything, but there's a lot of content in this game, a lot of content. I told you before, I finished like 23%, and that's over 60 hours, and I did a fair amount of sub-stories. I did a fair amount, so there must be a lot of stuff in this game. There's a lot. Now, I did say we would cover weapons really quickly, so let me get into that. As you play as Majima, you are able to send people out to actually go and get components for weapons that you can then craft together by going to this shop. I don't want to spoil it too much because it's, you know, something that gets revealed to you as you play the game, but it's very reminiscent of the agents or assassins, was it assassins or agents that you have in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where there was those missions where, you know, you'd wait a certain amount of time and those people that you sent on a mission will either complete the mission or they'll fail the mission and they'll come back with resources or whatever. That's basically how it's set up. So it's not super in-depth, and I personally didn't really play with this system a lot. I don't think I got one weapon made or used any weapons as Majima, really, except for the baseball bat that he comes with. And with Kiryu, I found a bunch of weapons. I don't remember how I found them, and I don't remember finding any new ones after I realized that I had the weapons and found out how to actually use them. You press down on the D-pad. Like, I never found any more, so I don't even know how I got weapons as Kiryu. But with Majima, there's an actual system for you to get weapons that you can like play around with a bunch of different styles, and you can upgrade your proficiency in those weapons in Majima's Slugger style, I believe. Now, I did want to quickly explain how the fighting works. Basically, square is your light attack, and then triangle is your heavy attack. X basically dodges, and circle is grab, and that's basically the main components of the fighting system. You'll spend a lot of time pressing square and then having a triangle in there once in a while, or maybe pressing it a few more times, and that's how you get your combos. And then sometimes you'll have a prompt to complete a heat move, and then you'll press triangle for that, and that will bring up those cutscenes that we were talking about earlier. So that's basically how the combat works. Obviously, it gets more deep as you unlock more combos and unlock more abilities and whatnot. You can unlock taunting and all that sort of stuff. And there are some quick time events, but those are generally in boss battles and in big events and cutscenes and stuff like that. If you really hate quick time events, then this may irk you, but there's not that many quick time events for me to say, yo, you know, there's so many quick time events, you should avoid this game. It's like few and far between, and they're done pretty well, so it's not that bad. But let's get into the next section, or we'll be here forever. So graphics and sound. Now, I already talked about the 3 types of cutscenes, so we won't talk about that. But the graphics in the produced cutscenes, you know, the glossy cutscenes, were great. Like, I really liked it. Honestly, I think they're probably like high-end PS3 graphics, but high-end PS3 graphics is like Metal Gear Solid 4 and that sort of stuff, and that looked great. It does look like PS4 graphics, because it does look like it's, you know, really nice and stuff, but I don't want to over talk it. I don't think it's like the best graphics, like the best fidelity or all that sort of stuff, but it's good, it's great, and it's good enough, and it told the story perfectly. The presentation is top notch. Each new objective is slapped on the screen with force, and it's stylish as hell, man. I really liked it. The voice acting is great, even though I don't generally like reading subtitles and I can't understand what the characters are saying, I can sense the emotions where people are like, oh, I just love Japanese voice acting, man. I love it. Like, it's fucking great. I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed, you know, the graphics and sound and all the presentation and the story and the gameplay. So is it worth the price? Now, I played this game for around 69 hours. Maybe take off like 3 hours because I might have been standing in the pause menu for that much. So let's say 66 hours, if that. And reached 23.26 completion. So I did a bunch of stuff. I played a bunch of side missions and played a bunch of side activity. Well, I didn't play a bunch of them. I played some. I have a good amount of side activities. I did the mini games and that sort of stuff. And I got 23.26 completion and 66 hours minimum of gameplay. Like, that's amazing. And it cost £15.99 on the PSN store. That is more than worth the price. I cannot give this game enough praise because it was so good, especially for the asking price. Like, oh my god, the amount of content you get in this game is actually amazing. Like, I feel like we're stealing from the company, getting all this great content from the game. And I'm really excited to continue the Yakuza series and play more of this series. Now, I did have to complete this game this week because Spider-Man's coming out. So this review probably won't be up in the week that I completed the game, as I still need to, you know, edit all the graphics and stuff on top. But I highly suggest you go and purchase this game. First of all, let's go through the pros and cons. If you are going to buy this game, please use the link in the description. That's jaycartere.com/Yakuza 0, because that does help out the channel a little bit more. But let's go over the pros and cons really quickly. Now, pros. There are many hours of great content. There's a great story. There's a good balance between serious crime drama and hilarious side activities. And before we go on to the cons, let me quickly just give you some insight into some of the side activities that you'll be seeing. I think there was one side activity where I don't want to talk about the stuff that everyone else has already talked about in their reviews. There was a side activity where I helped someone get out of a cult. There was a side activity when I helped a little child get a game that was stolen from him. I helped a dominatrix learn how to dominate better and embarrass their customers. There's many great different wild things that you'll be getting into. There was a great one where I basically, a kid wanted a shrink wrapped magazine, which is basically, you know, an adult magazine with ladies' hoo-has in them and that sort of stuff. And I had to sneak past my secretary and some women who were near the actual magazine. What are they called? What distribution thing? Magazine thing that you can buy it from. I don't know what, you know, when you get food from those things, what are they called? Food machines? Snack machines? It's basically a magazine machine. And I had to sneak past them to get him a shrink wrapped magazine so that he could go home and, I don't know, put some hairs on his chest and grow up an adult or something like that. But he really wanted it, and because I was playing as the good-hearted Kiryu, we had to help him out, which was hilarious. It's hilarious seeing this hardcore, you know, gangster deal with these hilarious situations. And like, really, as I said before, both of these guys, they got hearts of gold, man. And generally, I don't like goody two shoes characters, but these guys, they did it well. They did it well because they weren't wastemen. They weren't just guys who were like goody two shoes and they were getting taken for a prick or anything like that. Like, these guys were guys that would punch you up, but they're also just good guys. Like, they've just got good head on their shoulders and stuff. So cons, what cons do we have? We've got one con. There's no English dub. That's the only con that I've got for this game right about now. There's no English dub. I mean, maybe I could have talked about the fighting, but I think that was my fault of not investing in my character enough to make the game easier for me. I think the fighting was challenging and it was fun. But yeah, no English dub. No English dub. That's not great, but I dealt with it. And if you can deal with it as well, then I'd say get this game. Please use the link in the description or the link on the screen, as it will really help out the channel. Get a small percentage if you go through this link. Go to jaycartere.com/Yakuza0. Purchase that. But I do believe, or most of you probably gonna just buy it on PSN, so I don't know, go through that. If that's what you want to do, purchase it on PSN. I don't know how much it is on Amazon, but it might be cheaper. Let me quickly check. So on Amazon, Yakuza 0 is actually $14.99, so it's £1 cheaper. If you want £1 off, then yeah, go through the link. Otherwise, you know, if you're gonna purchase it on PSN, then you can purchase it on PSN. It's pretty cheap, unless the price goes up to more than $15.99, then just get it from Amazon. But this was a great game, more than worth the price, more than worth it. I got way more than my money's worth. And honestly, if I didn't have so many games to review this year, I would continue playing this, because I do want to get to like the end of the mini games and complete certain things that I didn't get to complete. So I may even come back to this game down the line. Like it's really good. It's really good, and I just really wanted to let you guys know and give you the information and let you know that this is a good game that you probably should check out if you're interested in, you know, games like this. The combat's pretty simple. It's not super complex, but it can get more complex as you unlock more combos and that sort of stuff. But yeah, great game, great game. I couldn't recommend it enough. Thanks for watching and liking and subscribing. Let me know what you thought about Yakuza 0 if you've played it down in the comment section below, or let me know if you played any other game in the series. No spoilers in my comment sections, please. And yeah, let's discuss, let's talk about it. I will see you in the next review. Peace out. If you want to learn how I got over 23,000 subscribers and millions of views on my YouTube gaming channel, then you are in luck. Sign up to this free course right now. Link will be in the card, in the description, and in the pinned comment. Or go to growonyoutube.com/20k SEO course. In this course, you will learn the best way to write your video titles, tags, and descriptions to help you rank on the first page of YouTube. It's simple when you know what to do. I'll also show you a hack that will help you choose the right key phrases and help you create videos that can rank and get views no matter what game you play. Stop struggling to grow your YouTube gaming channel and start doing what works. Click on the link in the description or go to growonyoutube.com/20k SEO course. This course will not be up forever, so get in there as soon as possible. I hope to see you here soon, and I wish you the best of luck on your journey of turning your passion into your career.
It's been a cold winter and it's lasted far too long. So all this warmth I share with you